Hello everyone, I hope you all guys are healthy and safe. Dear students, today we are going to discuss Unit 8 Physical Education of Class 12. Unit 8 is Biomechanics and Sports. I already prepared other other topics related to this chapter. If you haven't watched these videos, you can check. I have given the link of these videos in the description. So today we are going to discuss another topic of this chapter, which is types of movement. Okay, in this video you are going to know first the types of movements. Okay, there are various types of movements around our joints, so let's know about these all one by one. So the first we are going to talk about the flexion. The first number of movement is flexion. What is flexion? Now let's know about it. Flexion, it is the reduction of angle or the reduction of angle between two adjacent bone around sagittal plane and through frontal axis. Understand it once again. What is flexion? It is the reduction of angle or the reduction of angle between two adjacent bone around sagittal plane and through frontal axis. Or we can say it is the movement between two adjacent bone when they come close to each other around the lateral axis and sagittal plane. Example: elbow flexion or knee flexion means bending of knee or bending of elbow. So that is called flexion. What is flexion? Bending of knee or bending of elbow is the example of flexion. Okay, reduction of angle or reduction of angle between two adjacent bone is called flexion. So this is all about flexion. Now let's know about the next. Second type of movement is extension. What is extension? Now let's know about it. The return movement from flexion, or it is the increases of angle between two adjacent bone. What is extension? The return movement from flexion, or it is the increases of angle between two adjacent bone, or we can say which two adjacent bone going away from each other around lateral axis and through sagittal plane is known as extension. Okay, for example, straightening of knee or elbow. Okay, it is we can say the extension is just opposite of flexion. Okay, so this is about extension. I hope you understood about flexion and extension. Now let's know about the next. Third type of movement is abduction. Now let's know about it. Okay, abduction, sideward movement of body part, that is body part goes away from the midline. Here the movement takes place around sagittal axis and through frontal plane. These movements are possible at shoulder joint and hip joint. Okay, where it is possible? It is possible only in shoulder girdle, shoulder joint and hip joint. These movements are done in frontal plane and sagittal axis. Okay, for example, hand going away from the body or rotation of the hand is the example of abduction. So this is about the abduction. What is abduction? Sideward movement of body part, that is body part goes away from the middle line of the body. Okay, so I hope you understood about abduction. Now let's know about the next, which is adduction. Fourth and the last type of movement is adduction. Now let's know about it. The return movement of abduction, or it is the movement of a body part when the body part comes closer to middle line around sagittal axis through frontal plane. What is it? Understand it once again. The return movement of abduction, or it is the movement of a body part when the body part comes closer to middle line, okay, around sagittal axis through frontal plane. These movements are possible at shoulder girdle, shoulder joint and hip joint. For example, return movement of abduction, only just opposite of abduction. So this is about adduction. I hope you understood about the types of movements. Now let's know about the next topic. Now the second topic is Newton's law of motion and its application in sports. Now I am going to tell you about the Newton's law of motion one by one and their applications in sports. So let's start with the first law of motion, which is law of inertia. What is it? Any object will remain in its position until or unless any external force is applied on it. What is first law of motion? Any object will remain in its position until or unless any external force is applied on it. For example, a ball in the ground in a rest position. For example, there is a football. Okay, before the match, the football was kept in the center of the ground. The football will remain in the rest position until or unless any external force is applied on it. Okay, so this is the first law of motion, law of inertia. Okay, any object will remain in its position until or unless any external force is applied on it. Okay, so now let's know about the next law of motion, which is second law of motion. Second type of law of motion is law of acceleration. Now let's know about it. The rate of change of acceleration is directly proportional to the applied force, and change take place in the direction in which the force applied. Okay, now let's know what is the example of law of acceleration in sports. Example: if we want to produce acceleration in football, then a large force will be required to put on the ball, and the ball will accelerate whatever the force will be applied on it. According to that force, the ball will accelerate. So this is the example. This is the law of motion, second law of motion, law of acceleration. Now let's know about the third law of motion. Third law of motion is law of action and reaction. Now let's know about it. There will be equal and opposite reaction to each and every action. What is the third law of motion? Law of action and reaction. What is it? There will be equal and opposite reaction to each and every action. Example in sports is swimming. Swimming is the best example. So how? Swimmer pushes the water in the backward direction and water exerts a force on the swimmer. Okay, so these are the law of motions which is given by the Newton, and with the examples I told you how they are applied in the sports. So this is all about Newton's law of motion. Now let's know about the next topic, which is friction. Now let's know about the friction and sports. Okay, what is friction and what is its application in sports? So let's understand first friction. Friction is a force that develops when the surface of two objects come in contact to each other, and there will be relative motion between these objects, or tends to do relative motion between these two objects. Friction force always act in an opposite direction to the movement. Okay, means if there will be no friction and there will be no movement. Okay, I hope you understood about the friction. Now let's know the types of friction and their application in sports. Types of friction. Now let's know how many types of friction. There are generally two types of friction, like first mechanical friction, the second is fluid friction. Okay, so there are two types of mechanical friction also. What are these? Let's know first. The rolling friction. What is rolling friction? Contact in reduce because a roller or wheel or ball bearings. Okay, what is rolling friction? Contact is reduced because of roller or wheel or ball bearings. And the second is sliding friction. The second type of friction is sliding friction in mechanical friction. Force resulting when pushing or pulling an object over a surface. Okay, the mechanical friction helps in the field hockey, in footballs. Okay, players of field hockey or soccer used to do deep study of the surface of the ground also, because they used to know how hard is surface. Okay, and the good study of the surface gives them good result in their sports. Okay, so this is about mechanical friction. Now let's know about the fluid friction. Fluid friction. Now let's know about the fluid friction. When an object passes through the air or the water, it is offered resistance by their media, which is called fluid friction. Okay, what is fluid friction? Understand it once again. When an object passes through the air or the water, it is offered resistance by their media, which is called fluid friction. Okay, it is of two types. Example, first water resistance, there is air resistance and water resistance. In air resistance, viscous, running, cycling, etc. And in water resistance, aquatics, swimming, etc. Okay, so this is about types of friction. Okay, I hope you understood about this all topic. Today we discuss about the types of movements, Newton's law of motion, and at last friction and sports. So that's all for today. Thank you. Be happy, be healthy.
Hey there. Subscribe to my channel.